This episode of Made in America TV is brought to you by America's Inventor Lady and Home Talk USA. Home Talk is a proud member of the King's Broadcasting Network, which has been bringing you the best in home-based innovation since 1998.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us for this episode of Made in America.
Welcome to the Made America show right here on the Build What America radio program. Now I'd like to, Rita, I tell you, if you just join us right now, we're excited. Why don't you formally, I know I threw him into the fire there, but formally welcome the new host of the show and let's learn a little bit more about him.
Well, I am honored to introduce Zach Mottl to you. Zach is fourth generation president, manufacturing in America, Atlas Tools. And, you know, Zach, we are just so pleased to have you guys taking over 2 shows a month where the Coalition for Prosperous America can tell us what's going on. What do you need us to help with? How can we, pitch in and, when you need us to call a congressman or a senator or whatever, you're going to let us know, but you're going to be able to feature all those companies that are manufacturing in America because a lot of Americans don't even know. So thank you so much for being with us.
Rita, it's great to be here today. Thanks for having me and giving me the opportunity here today. Like I said before the break, clearly some big shoes to fill. There's some great energy here, but I've got big feet. I'm ready to run. We're going to have some fun together here.
We are. So, tell us a little bit about the family history.
Yeah, so my great-grandfather started Atlas Tool Works in 1918 in Chicago. He had been an engineer trained in Europe. He came from what's now the Czech Republic. But came to country like many people, immigrated here in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And he was working at a company called Western Electric, and they made phone switches. Back in around that time, we were going from the operator switch phone where you had an operator moving the plugs to the rotary phone, and you dial and the mechanical switch would route the call for you. And so he was working there, and he saw an opportunity to go and start his own business and sell back things to his former employer, things that they couldn't keep up with in-house. Tools, dies, jigs, fixtures. So that's how Atlas started in 1918. He had 10 business partners from his former employer. They all came with him, his buddies. And within the first 2 years, he bought them all out. He was the sole owner.
Good for him. Wonderful story about manufacturing in America. So about the time, now it's gone through a couple of generations. All right. You take it over from your dad. And so what was going on about the time you were taking over?
Well, we had that great run. My great-grandfather, that telecom industry, Western Electric became AT&T. They became Lucent Technologies. There was a spinoff after spinoff. We had Cisco and we had Nortel Networks in Canada and Juniper. And, I couldn't name all the different companies we were making pieces for, thanks to my great-grandfather's, vision and foresight of that industry. It was high tech. It was telecom. I mean, we had Bell Labs, out in New Jersey and, inventing things in Massachusetts, the transistor, the laser, so many things, everything that we're using to talk and communicate today, everything in your pocket and your phone, that came out of Bell Labs. That was funded by that phone network. And that was innovations on basic manufacturing, making phone equipment. So, I thought, well, this is great. I went to college and I graduated in the year 2000 and came into the business. And we were still, heavy with telecom. That had served us pretty well for over 80 years. We had other customers in other industries, but we had just so much demand that we didn't really need to do much else. And, at that year 2000, 2 things happened. Number one, the tech bubble burst, and that put a lot of pressure on telecom companies. They were looking for margin. They had too much inventory. But the other big move in the world that happened was China came online. They got most favored nation trading status. And when that happened, that changed everything, not only for the telecom industry, but for every single American manufacturer, every worker, every producer in America had a fundamental change at that time. and we did too.
Zach,
Yeah.
let me ask you something right quick though. What, because I know my audience wants to know what they can expect from Zach. What is going to be your thing? What do you want to focus on? What is going to be your pet peeve?
But what we want to talk about is the policies behind making things in America. What I described when my customers left this country and we lost all that business, and it wasn't just me, it was millions and millions of manufacturers across America experienced the same thing. It was because of bad policy, bad government policy. You know, my group, the Coalition for Prosperous America, you know, we love President Trump. I mean, he's doing great things for us, but we're actually nonpartisan. We're bipartisan. We just want good policy. So I'm going to be educating and focusing on what's the policy to make it here from the federal level, sometimes the state level, and even the local level. And independent, you know, over my career, my life, I'm looking for a party to embrace these issues. You know, and we saw it. The reason I love Donald Trump is because he came in full force, no fear, and he moved the Overton window. He changed the discussion of what is acceptable to talk about, and finally got us back to the conversation that it is bipartisan. Democrats, Republicans, these are about bringing good jobs to America and raising the wages of working people. That's what the policies I'm going to talk about. That's what we want to focus on. How do we get your wages rising faster than costs? Most workers have been stagnant and they can't figure it out. They're working 2 jobs to get ahead. They can't pay their bills in America. They're struggling and they can't figure it out. Their parents had a better standard of living. Whether you're rich, poor, in the middle, your parents had a better standard of living. We want to get that back by bringing it back to making things here in America. That's how we get wealthy.
Trade schools, work ethics. We got to get it back. All right, we're gonna have to take a short break along with the inventor lady herself, Miss Rita Crompton. I am the Cajun contractor, Michael King, and this is the Made America Show on the Built with America Radio Network. I'll be right back. Yay!
And thank you so much for being with us for this segment of Made in America. Oh my God, I love being able to say that. All right, so we are building in America, made in America. We are buying American-made products. And that is one of the things that we're going to help you guys find out there is where do you go to find the American-made products? Who's doing them? My guest today, for the first time, and taking over this part of the show is Zach Mottl. And Zach, you know, it is wonderful to have you guys on board with CPA. All right, Coalition for a Prosperous America. What is it? What is the Coalition for a Prosperous America?
Yep. Well, CPA is the premier group in America representing solely domestic producers. And so we represent American manufacturers, farmers, ranchers, and laborers. And these are over 4.2 million individuals through our membership across America. They're in, we've got ranchers, cattlemen out east who are concerned about country of origin labeling and imports of beef coming into this country. We've got farmers, people who make produce. You know, America used to be a net agriculture exporter, and now we're actually an agricultural trade deficit. People don't realize that. There are people who grow tomatoes, celery, and other products, blueberries, who are being harmed by unfair trade practices. And then, of course, manufacturers. You know, I own a manufacturing company myself, a couple of them. And I'm fortunate to be partnered with a whole bunch of them at the Coalition for Prosperous America. And we've got people doing everything from running a steel mill, a copper refinery and foundry. We've got stamping companies, machining companies. Every solar manufacturer in America manufactures large and small, making generic drugs in America. We're members. And so what we want to do is change the policy. We want to bend the curve in America so that it's not only sexy, but profitable to make things here in America again. People are excited about it, but we want to make it so that companies make money and that workers have rising wages. And that's at the root of what our policies are. But we can get into all of it on top of it. We've got economists, we got lobbyists, we got lawyers. We're quite a little organization that could.
Yeah, you are not a little organization. I've gone and looked. You have got feelers everywhere. And, you know, I was quite impressed when John said he's on speed dial with Susie Wiles. It's like, well, okay, I might want to redo that agreement that we did for you guys coming on board, saying, but he gets to take me to the White House at some point. And he said, I can do that. It's like, yeah, you go, John. Yeah. So when we look at the different types of, you know, Americans say, you know, I talk to people all the time, say, I would like to buy American goods. They don't really know how to look for them. They don't know, what's on the packaging, and you're going to help educate our consumers on what to look for to find American-made products.
How to find them, and also how to get more of them made in America. So I'd love to do some, I think over the next couple of weeks and months, we'll talk about policy. We'll have some guests on here that can speak to that, some economists, some, trade people, maybe even some elected officials. I'd like to have some other manufacturers on this show, people who are making it in America. They can talk about the challenges they face, the products they have. Again, there's some great places to find that coalesce made in America products. We'll feature some of that. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun together. Very interesting stuff to talk about. I know your listeners are into this kind of stuff. I hope we can bring it to the next level. And I think my team, will help you, get some more audience for this show. We'll broadcast it a little bit more, do some advertising. We're going to have fun together. But all things made in America, how we can do more of it, how it's going to help the average person. I mean, even if you're not working in manufacturing, what you need to understand is that you've been held back too. The whole economy has been held back. Manufacturing and making, growing, mining, producing things in America is the wealth driver of any nation. Every nation in the history of the world that has practiced doing more producing gets wealthier. You don't get rich by consuming. You get rich by producing. And so we're going to teach America about that and where to go to buy those things, how to do more of it, and why it's important to you.
Well, Zach, last week we had breaking news on this show, and I'm sure it was a buzz, and I was excited because finally the Federal Trade said they're coming down on U.S. manufacturers that are falsely labeling made in America. The fines that have already been issued, the seizures at the, when the products come in the United States has already begun. So kudos to the administration to say, you know what, if you're going to put that flag on that package, we're going to make sure it's legit, because they've been getting away with it too long.
It's
putting America, where the foreign companies come in, set up shop, but it's just a front for, the foreign products to come in so they could slap that label on there. Tremendous injustice. So what have you heard about that? I know I was excited last week when that broke.
That's huge news, Michael. But that's just one way. They cheat 12 ways from Sunday. There's a lot of ways they're doing it. The customs labeling, the fraud, the Made in America fraud is one issue of it. We've seen other instances where companies, they say it's made in America. They're bringing all the pieces in. They just kind of put them together. That's actually assembled in America, right? And so we can get to the root of some of those things. We can talk more about it. Other problems we've seen, they just closed this administration. Thank God for this president, this administration. Again, it's not because he's a Republican or whatever. It's because he's had the guts to actually speak the truth, to go up against the big corporate interests, the Wall Street money men who've been making money, sending our jobs and our production overseas. This guy's spoken up against it. One thing he ended last week, it's called the de minimis loophole. It's another problem. Maybe you heard about this. This is where you can buy packages online. They come from Shine and Temu, shipped directly to your door. This was the fentanyl superhighway. These packages are uninspected, and they're counterfeits too. Even if you got what you ordered, you don't know if it's actually, I ordered a measuring cup on there. You know what? All the lines came off the first time I washed it. It's garbage. It's counterfeit.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, Zach, and then yesterday, it was announced yesterday with, the tariff situation with the report's going to come out tomorrow. And I think it's going to be a little negative because but I think it's going to be a start to people getting educated on the tariffs. Is it against you or is it for you? Is it pro or con? And I'm excited because the report's coming out tomorrow.
We're going to get into the tariffs. I think we can have a couple of shows devoted to tariffs solely alone, how they work and what they're doing. We're big fans of them. They are one tool in the toolbox of making things in America. We need to get back to tariffs. Every country does them except us.
And finally, yesterday, the farmers market at the mall in Washington, that blew my mind to have the American farmer, the little guy come out there and and not only sell at the National Mall. I mean, it's blowing my mind, Zach. And I know yesterday it was launched.
We want to have more family farms, more small producers, people making things, and actually having a wealth generation effect for themselves, their families, and their employees. We can get back to that. We've lost tens of thousands of family farms across America, and I'll get into that data in the next future shows. But yeah, it's pretty bad when you actually look at the truth of what's out there. And the American public has not been told the truth for a long time on these issues. Economists have lied, politicians have lied.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, we're seeing more and more of that come to light now on the facts we were given were lies, and so many of the truths were just ignored or covered up. And so it's nice to see some of those things being told and how we can fight it. And what do we have to do on the consumer side of supporting Made in America?
Fantastic. I always say, if you want to get better, the first step is admitting you've got a problem, right? If you're an alcoholic, you got to admit you have a problem first and look at the situation honestly. I think we're finally doing that in America. We're looking at the situation honestly. And the reality, the honest truth is that the wages for the majority of Americans, these are people making less than $150,000 a year. These are most people. They've been stagnant since 1979. That's the truth.
All right. We're going to have to run up against the clock.
Everybody, and thank you so much for being with us for this last segment of Made in America. We're so excited to bring on Zach Mottl, and I get used to saying that the way you told me to, Zach, and the Coalition for a Prosperous America, because I know this is going to become a mainstream show, because your message is so on target for everything that's happening in America right now. And I want to thank our product quick start, Noah McNeely, for helping all of those inventors with their prototypes out there. So if you are an inventor, let me know. I will put you in touch with Product Quick Start to get that thing from mind to market. So Zach, you're going to be coming on next week. You've got to, you'll get to line up, pick your guest. What are you looking for in that first couple of shows as being able to, do the kickoff?
Well, I think we'd like to do a deeper dive on tariffs. Michael was asking a little bit about that, and I think we'd like to help educate the American public about why they work and why they're important for American production and where we think they're going to go next. We've seen some use of tariffs by the administration, but there's different types of tariffs. There's emergency tariffs, there's national security tariffs. So we'd like to kind of break that down a little bit, probably bring on some experts, some trade lawyers, if we have time for that, and get into exactly, the details of tariffs. And I think, what, Rita, you're right about the show, and Michael too. This is what the American public wants right now. The American consumer, we have done polling, and so have a lot of people. These have been big national polls, and they show that over and over, the American consumer would strongly prefer to buy an American-made product. They understand that when they do that, it gives a good job to their neighbor. They understand how this works, but they're not even given the choice anymore. You can't even tell. You go on Amazon, which products are even made in America? It's very hard to find. You go to your local store, hard to find them. So we're going to get into that in future shows. But at first, let's talk about tariffs.
Well, we're going to have to close out the show. Zach, we only got 20 seconds. See you next week with the microphone. We're going to turn over the reins. Till next week, Rita, next week, this is the Made America Show. We'll be right back next week. Yay!